What up, y'all? Sorry, I'm busy. I saw y'all in the comment section. I'm in the middle of writing a column. I am dropping my kids off at soccer practice. I'm sitting in here. I got to a point in the piece where I felt like I could leave it off and then come back when this is done and then go pick up my kids from soccer practice. And I'm also chatting about another piece. But anyhow, my apologies for being tardy. I did want to do a quick show before the final game of the regular season, final games of the regular season, because we are in the midst of history. I've said it before here. We're in the midst of history, and I don't know how long I can go today, guys. I apologize, but we're in the midst of history because this all started, right? This show right here started with me and my hardcore supporters, my biggest fans. And then I started talking about Caitlyn Clark and the WNBA, and it started expanding and growing. And it was then, and I knew back in the past, and I personalized this because it's personal. I knew back in the past when I was at SI proper, I was my boss at the time, Matt Gothard, who now goes by the Casino King. He's an influencer in the gaming casino space. He's from the Midwest, like, I don't know, one of those places, Minnesota or something. And he said to me, you got to check out this girl, Caitlyn Clark. You got to check her out. You got to check out. And I did a video on her at the time, which is like, here's why you need to know who Caitlyn Clark is, was essentially the premise of the video. It blew up, right? That was a few weeks before the South Carolina game where she tore up South Carolina. And a couple weeks later was the Angel Reese thing, which took it to another level. Then you go to the next season. I remember going, I can say, I went to Max Kellerman's apartment in New York to watch the LSU Iowa Final Four, Elite Eight game this past year. And it was funny because he texted me, do you want to come over for the game? And I made a comment when I was there, like, it's crazy. We're watching the game, and it's a women's basketball game. Noteworthy, right? Like, whoa. And then I remember watching the championship game from the parking lot in Philadelphia at WrestleMania. I had taken my son to WrestleMania. The second night of WrestleMania was the national championship game. And when you go back and you look at the ratings, it is staggering. It is staggering. 18 million people watched that game. 18 million people. And that's just a huge number. Just a huge number. Fast forward, WNBA draft. WNBA draft is watched by as many people as watched the last 6 years combined. And I think some people, and I think maybe even the league itself, thought that was going to be a little bit of a flash in the pan. I do. I think the league maybe wasn't even prepared for how big the Caitlyn Clark explosion was going to be and how sustained it was going to be. They front-loaded the Fever's schedule. They played 11 games in 20 days, probably trying to maximize the revenue and attendance. And if you notice, it was around the All-Star break. It was first the Diana Taurasi sort of like, salute, you're good. And then it was the All-Star break. After that, I feel like the promotional energy changed, both from the Fever and around the league as a whole, because people realized, oh, shit, this is for real. This ain't going away. And I've argued, rising tide lifts all boats, which I believe to be true. I believe you'll see, you're not going to see the 18 million viewers you saw last year, but you're going to see more than there were before. And people are going to follow Paige Beckers and Juju Watkins. And, remember that Sunday afternoon game between the Aces and the Sky? That was one, I think it was the one that A'ja Wilson won on the last second shot. I just remember noticing when that game was going on, anecdotally, how many Clark fans were commenting on that game. And then the ratings came out, and that game did a big number. Now, of course, the Clark games have done bigger numbers than the other games in mass, but I think it's significant to see that that game did a big number. And now, I've argued A'ja Wilson has benefited a ton from all this. She's benefited a ton. A lot more people know how great a player she is now. So that's significant. Obviously, Angel Reese is a star in her own right. She's on the cover of SI. Check out Women's Fast Break on SI in the comment section below, or the description below. I think I put the my end of season awards in there. So that, is significant. Angel's ascension, all this stuff is significant. And now the playoffs are upon us, and it's kind of a blur, right? Because it's like, oh man, I can't believe the season's over. What are we going to do when it's over, when the playoffs are over? Luckily, college basketball will start, and there will be another WNBA season, and we'll see what happens with Unrivaled and whatever Caitlyn decides to do in the offseason. But when you see like the numbers, and it was Dan Wetzel of Yahoo who put the numbers out there. When you see the numbers, it is staggering. The WNBA on average got close to the NBA in numbers. Not all the way there, but close enough. And I never would have thought in my entire life that I would see that happen. I really didn't. I never would have thought. That is a, monumental turn of events. A huge, watershed moment. Huge watershed moment. Sorry, hold on. I'm just going to answer this text. Yeah, and it's the kind of thing that you never go back from. Like, things just ain't the same for gangsters. Yesterday's price ain't today's price. Any of those phrases you want to use. And you can go back to when the NBA was on tape delay. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, they come in. NBA gets moved off tape delay. They run so that Michael Jordan can fly. Michael Jordan globalizes the sport with the Dream Team. And, before that, it wasn't what it is today. And before this season, the WNBA was growing, but it wasn't what it is today. It exploded. And I don't think forgetting just the WNBA, I don't think women's basketball will ever be the same. And there's constantly this discussion when it comes to the NBA. LeBron James, Steph Curry, closer to the end than the beginning, right? And those guys have been the faces. It was Bird and Magic. It was Jordan, Shaq and Kobe, LeBron, Curry. And everybody was like, who's the next face of basketball? Who's the next face? Is it going to be Anthony Edwards? Well, he hasn't accomplished enough yet. Is it Victor Wembanyama? He's a rookie. Also, like, super tall, big guys. It usually doesn't translate like that. Is it Luka Doncic? Not American. The answer is Caitlyn Clark. The face of basketball is Caitlyn Clark. She's the new one across the board. And I think she's brought an audience to the WNBA. It's because it's not just women, right? She brought a bunch of guys, dudes, watching the WNBA. We're discussing the WNBA like we do the NBA, which is massive. And, we've talked about record ratings. We've talked about record attendance. She backed it up on the court. That's the biggest thing. I mean, that's what made her popular in the first place, how fun she is to watch on the court. And she backed it up in the pros through it all. So that's where we're at now. And it's worth taking a second to appreciate and note. And all those things. AJ says Robin's hair looks like CC wave that W is riding. What's wrong with my hair? Y'all, I got good hair. Come on. Most of these dudes can't mess with me when it comes to the look. Nah, no. I got the best show on YouTube though, according to Cindy Hudson. So I'll take that. And I'm, I can take a little bit of your ribbing there, AJ, Mr. F1. We had somebody in the comments section the other day, the skeptical optimist, I think it was, who put a comment in there about your F1 comments, AJ. He had asked me to also talk about the SI power list. I wrote a piece for that for Women's Fast Break on SI, but I didn't really have anything to say. I mean, they put a lot of women's basketball players on there, which shows you exactly what I'm talking about. I mean, Basil, you never have anything nice to say. You say I look like a cartoon. You're always in here. And tell me I look like a cartoon. He's got none. I've never seen this dude say anything kind or nice compliment. Even when he says something complimentary, it's followed by like, comma, you suck. What time zone are you in, Mr. or Mrs. Rawhide? It says it's 11:47. It's like 6:03 where I'm at. I'm late. Look at this huge Starbucks I got. Apologies to Polar today. Hold on. All right. Element Gold says, for each minute he is late, I will chat something mean about a W. How late was I? Like 5 minutes, y'all? Come on. I think I was only like 5 minutes late. Cindy Hudson is my favorite, by the way. Only saying nice things in here, like unlike some of you punks. Duke Lombardi says CC is a Bird, Magic, and Jordan for the WNBA. It's like the Hove line off the Blueprint. I'm Michael, Magic, and Bird all rolled in one. And if I ain't better than Big, I'm the closest one. So that's definitely true. It's true. Ainser1 says, started watching you at the end of April. Shouts to that. I appreciate that. That's April was kind of where I was circling back to there a second ago. Kind of where I was circling back to a second ago, because April was WrestleMania, was the national championship game. Michael Dwight says, what people experienced and saw this season in the W is what Iowa fans did the last 3 women's college basketball seasons. It was mesmerizing. Yeah. I mean, and the Iowa fans are obviously strong. I got to tell you, I didn't know nothing about no Iowa fans until now. But that is, something. The strength of that fan base. Even Erica Wheeler of the Fever was delighting in it because they treated her to dinner. Martell says Kathy should be fired. The fact that they got lowballed is amazing. I don't think they got lowballed. I don't. Look, they can renegotiate that deal in 3 years. So basically, the numbers tripled this year, and they got triple the deal. So let's say this is the top of the growth. They maximize the top of the growth. I'm willing to bet it's not going to be the top of the growth, but they're not locked into that deal beyond like 3 years. So to me, that's a smart decision. You lock in the deal at the top, at what could be the top of the growth for 11 years or whatever it is, and you can get out in 3 years. If the growing continues, you just renegotiate it then. I don't think it was that bad a deal. Everybody always wants to be negative about everything all the time. I don't think that was that bad a deal. See, Cindy says I have awesome hair. You guys are bums. Ernesto, I'll talk about it. I'm putting on them parlays on just like the men. Tim, I think he asked if the WNBA needs a new commission. Seems like the league has been unprepared for the growth and the job may be too big. I think that goes across the board, dude. You notice it, and I've had private conversations about this. The media itself was not ready for it. Like people were trying to catch up at the end of the season. You'll see it at the beginning of next season. It's going to go crazy. The amount of promotion around the league and everything now that everybody realizes it. AJ says, regarding your awards article on the website, was Sides close in Coach of the Year? Was Kennedy Carter close in Most Improved Player? Yes, Kennedy Carter was close. The edge I gave to Dejanay Carrington for Most Improved Player was twofold. One, Carrington was on a better team in the Connecticut Sun, much better team. And two, Kennedy Carter actually missed a lot of time with the sickness and various things this year. So whenever I'm looking at things and they're close enough, if one player is playing 5-6 more games, then I'm going to go with that player. So that was the difference. Sides would have been behind Cheryl Reeve, behind Sandy Brondello, behind the Sun coach. Top 5, though. I think Sides might be top 5 for Coach of the Year, but she wasn't close to the actual Coach of the Year. Wasn't close to the actual Coach of the Year. Basil, the WNBA was growing before Caitlyn Clark got there. That is a fact. You can't. Or he says that you got to stop saying the WNBA was growing before. It certainly was. It was. That's a fact. It was not maybe profitable. It was not explosively growing, but was it growing? Yes. The ratings and numbers from last year were better than the year before, which is growing. That's if I'm an inch taller next year than I am now, I'm growing. But it just so happened, grew by 2 feet instead of an inch. Straight Ballin says, I'm no longer interested in the NBA. The W is a colorful fireworks show just starting, and I'm here for it. The best is yet to come. That's true, too. And we still got the playoffs. Nancy says, why is Swoopes determined to ruin CC and the Fever so ugly? I don't know, Nancy. I can't tell. I know people like to say, I think it's bitterness. To be honest, if you go back and watch that original interview of Swoopes when Clark broke one of her NCAA tournament records, she broke some NCAA tournament record. You could see Swoopes was hurting. Something was like, you could read in her face. She was hurting. And I'm thinking to myself, what's going on? That's affecting her that deeply. And in that interview, she said that Clark played an extra game, which I believe was true, which is actually a good argument, right? Like, that's a real reasonable argument. Hey, she broke my record, but she played an extra game. Maybe it didn't need to be said, but it's a reasonable, logical argument. But she seemed to take that argument and then apply it imaginarily. She seemed to apply that argument where it didn't apply, including obviously the Kelsey Plum thing, which was just false, which was the start of it all when she said Clark broke the scoring record that Kelsey Plum held because she had a COVID year. False. It was false. And that's where the hating sort of began and continued and continued and continued. So I can't speak for Cheryl Swoopes. I wish Cheryl Swoopes wasn't doing this. I think Cheryl Swoopes is hurting her legacy with a new group of fans. And it's kind of a sad situation. And I don't know the various factors that go into it, but I think based on what I've seen, my number one factor would be she seems to be bitter and jealous about her identity being erased because of what Clark is doing. That is my best guess. What up from Norway? Cindy Hudson, I watch so many podcasts that stink and they're nasty people. You're a fair guy doing a great job. That's the deal. Thank you. Yeah, Martel, the deal is they could get out after 3. So I think it was a smart deal, to be honest with you. Samantha says playoff predictions for each round. If standings are how they are now. But I mean, it's hard to say because they're not going to. I don't know what the matchups are going to be. I'll take the Liberty over the Dream, obviously. I'll take the Lynx over the Mercury, obviously. I'll take the Aces over the Storm, and I would take the Fever over the Sun. But just barely. I could see that going either way. And I would be most excited about the Fever Sun matchup. I didn't take it as I'm just messing with you, Basil. You can joke around with me. It's fine. You just always seem, even the guy in your avatar, I don't know what that guy is, but he's like an old timey fella. Mark Barnum says women's basketball heritage in Iowa has been 60 years, huge for 60 years. See, I did not know that. Did not know that. Doug O'Connor said, have been watching the Dowling Catholic games. That's where Clark played high school, right? I saw some of the high school soccer footage. She had 26 goals in 6 games. I'm coaching soccer, right? I coach soccer and basketball. Those are the sports I played. Jizik says Wheeler Roll is underrated. She's been huge. Yeah, I mean, Wheeler seems to be a good influence. TXZ06 is my fantasy team. Took a bath last week. Please take it easy on me this week since we are head-to-head. That's the fantasy league I have going on with some of you guys. I'm 2-0. It's called the Beat Robin League, and nobody's beat me yet. But we're starting the head-to-head matchups this week. Matthew says a great season of basketball, but it's been eye-opening in terms of how poorly prepared the W was for the sudden growth. Well, I think it will change, hopefully. I said at the time, Ainser, that she was underpaid by Nike. I really believe that. I think she should get $100 million from Nike. Nosy Gamer says, but if you were a foot shorter than you were 10 years ago, does that mean you were shrinking? Yes. But it's all relative, right? It's like, so you're talking about like when the WNBA first burst onto the scene till now. It's not as big as it was when it first burned onto the scene, but it's been growing over the last several years. And you also have to remember viewership numbers now for everything are down because of streaming, because of different choices, because of all sorts of things. Boxing and Bulldogs, Renee Montgomery should be forced to apologize. That's the former player and Atlanta Dream co-owner who kind of took a piss on Caitlyn Clark fans. And I think Caitlyn Clark fans get a bad rep. You know, I've said it on here. I think some of y'all were a little cultishly devoted for a while, and I told you this, where it was everybody's fault but Clark. And, people were out to get her, and there was all these agendas. But I think, with any huge fan base, you're going to have some yahoos involved. And as I've come to talk to some of y'all and interact with some of y'all, like, it's a great fan base. It's a huge, great, supportive fan base that supports with their wallets too, as well as their comments, and is protective in a mostly good-natured way now. I mean, you're always going to have the trolls. You're always going to have the extremists. But yeah, I think it's a very, very strong fan base. And I'm kind of getting annoyed with the attacks on the Clark fan base constantly, because people forget how broad the Clark fan base is too. And I bring this up not because race should matter, but because it's been interjected into a basketball conversation for whatever reason. And I go in some of these spaces, and a lot of the leading voices supporting Caitlyn Clark are black. I would hope so, Shark. I don't want Cheryl Swoopes. I take no pleasure in bashing Cheryl Swoopes or any of that stuff. It's not fun. It's sad. I mean, if you would put people on a Family Feud game before Caitlyn Clark and said, name a female basketball player, Cheryl Swoopes will be one of those answers on the board, if not the number one answer on the board. So I don't, there's nothing positive about it. I'm sure her numbers have gone up since she started talking about Caitlyn Clark, just like everybody else, just like mine. But I try to do it with integrity. Bobby U says, fever over the sun, fanboy. Hey, you got to speak it into existence, my man. See, why do you have to take a shot at the beginning? You could just say, what's your 2 all defensive teams? Off the top of my head, I'll give you the first team would be Nafisa, Asia, Carrington for sure. Jackie. And maybe McBride, the way she's played this year. That would probably be the first 5 that come to mind. Tekla says, I'm in Sweden, so I had to get VPN to be able to watch tonight's game on Prime. Don't expect Caitlyn Clark to play too much tonight. Just warning. Bobby, I have an article on this on Women's Fast Break on SI, but my first team, all WNBA team, is Sabrina Ionescu, Caitlyn Clark, Brianna Stewart, Nafisa Collier, Asia Wilson, and I will not accept any arguments otherwise. Night Owl says, wagered $7 on the Fever to win $567 to win the championship. Hey, yeah, that's not a bad bet. Percy says CC contract is $3.5 million yearly. Her shoes, I don't know, I can't really read, but her shoes are going to sell out so fast. Clark's fan base is definitely all over the place. I had Enrique on the second team. Kelsey has a good case for the second team too, for sure. Yes, Thrifty, Clark is playing tonight. For sure. She will be playing. All right. I told you guys I don't have much time tonight, but I wanted to hop in with a quick one. So, any other questions? Get them in right now because I have to work. I got to finish up. I got kids I got to pick up from school, and all that. And I know you guys got a game you want to watch in a little bit. Kalia Copper was on my second team. Is he also obviously a very good defender for sure? Nancy, I mean, I just wouldn't take what Swoopes says. I mean, you look at Katie Lou and Caitlyn messing around and what Erica Wheeler said. And I don't know if you guys saw what Kelsey Mitchell said, but Kelsey Mitchell said that she wouldn't be where she is from a recognition standpoint. Percy says, stay true. I try to. I have not seen enough of Grace Berger, Jeff, to have an opinion. Basil, what stats do you want me to address? You guys sometimes have to realize how many comments I have here. I can't, I send them. What stats are you even talking about? I'll address them. I just don't know what you're referencing. Wheeler seems like a cool person. Daily life of Pumpkin and Nia. Ezzy McBeggar is a defensive player of the year candidate. I mean, Spinks the Cat. This is what I'm talking about, though. I saw a lot of Clark fans reacting to this. Ignore that, right? I did see that comment, too, where they said Clark's complaining to the refs was the antics of a school shooter. Ignore it. It's obvious. There's no real person who could think that way, right? So just ignore it. Just nobody should type that. Nobody should have that thought enter their mind and their brain communicate to their fingertips to type that or any of the other stuff that goes to Angel or Asia or anybody else. None of that is acceptable. Of course not. Full stop. I don't know how many times I got to say it, but it's going to happen. There's nobody that can stop it. And the best way to stop it is to not give it life. I mean, we can all sit here over and over again and condemn it, and I will condemn it. You ask me to condemn it, I'll condemn it. I'll condemn it every day of the week if you want, but as it should be condemned. Like, anyone who doesn't condemn it is out of their minds, but you're just as out of your mind if you think you can control it. And I'm talking to everybody. I've had it, and I'm not famous. At least not compared to real famous people. Yes, Gray, I do think Lexi would be better if she could shoot off the dribble, but that's the kind of thing that you develop. That's the kind of thing you develop. Basil, your link is not showing up in the chat. Whatever link you're telling me about, I'm not seeing it in the chat. YouTube must be blocking it for some reason, so I apologize. I'm not avoiding your link. I would play the starters 20 minutes. Jeff. I mean, Element, what do you want to hold them into account for? Holding those trolls to account. Elon has made X into that's what he wants it to be. And free speech won't be censored. So what are we supposed to do about it? Right? Like, what are we supposed to do? And that person, I don't think, has a platform, like a real one. I do think some of the legacy WNBA media was talking out their ass. I do think that. And hating on Caitlyn Clark, for sure. For sure. I mean, some of the troll, like, look, if you follow the NBA, players stands, go crazy, all that stuff happens. That's just part of the game. The ugly part of it is a bridge too far, of course. But I don't think there's really anything to be done about it. Just be like, oh, yeah, this person's clearly a clown. Keep going. That's what I do. Who runs X? Basil, Elon runs it. I'm not blaming. I don't even care. Well, I mean, care. I don't want their feelings to be hurt. I don't want hateful things to be said. But it is what it is. I'm saying what it is, and that's part of what he is tried to find. And because there's arguments either side, right? There's an argument of saying all free speech should be allowed, and all free speech should be allowed. That's part of the principles of the country, but doesn't mean it can be on every platform. There's saying essentially don't police it, and then there's the other saying censor it, and then everybody gets kicked off. I mean, and Michael, it is hard to ignore the gaslighting comments also. I mean, that because they're some of them are directly like involved with the league. I am not currently an SI employee, so I'm not. I do run the website through Sports Illustrated, but I was a full-time SI employee. I am self-employed now, Boxing and Bulldogs, running the site in partnership with Sports Illustrated. But which media haters made the list? It was like they weren't really. I wouldn't consider Andrea Carter and Agumake and who was the other one that made the list? I wouldn't consider them haters of Caitlyn. Maybe they took a little bit to come around or once said that, somebody else was, but there's a difference between that and like actual haters. I didn't think any actual haters of Caitlyn made the list, at least to my knowledge. I'd have to go back and look. Donnie Davis says you are famous. I seen you on the TV at my bank on Saturday. It had something to do with SI. Hey, look, yes, I mean, famous is a strong word. I am I'm more famous than the average person. Let's put it that way. I am not the same level of famous as Caitlyn Clark or Angel Reese. Doug O'Connor says, stop reading, listen to Rob. See, I think that's the problem with what like Kathy said, the commissioner, is she basically tried to get that message across, but she said it with such a almost lack of, like empathy, and was pointing like right at the dollar signs. So that's what rubbed people the wrong way. But I do think some of the WNBA players are a little too chronically online. And I say that as a person who's chronically online because as part of my job, I need to be chronically online to get all the information. But yeah, I also know that this is not real and just go past. I think Angel making the cover was not a bad decision because people talked about it. That's part of the, and it's not like Angel's not a star. Angel's definitely a star, right? She's not Caitlyn Clark. We get it, but that doesn't mean she's not a star in her own right. A known personality. That's me. Nalissa Smith is my biggest concern, Yankee Tango, in the postseason for sure. Trolls have definitely been around for quite a good period of time, Robert. For sure. That is also for certain. Hang on, I got to answer one more text. This is work related, so bear with me just a second. All right, back. I mean, did people talk about it or not? It's not like Caitlyn. If Caitlyn didn't make the list and Angel Reese made the list, that would be a problem. You have no idea how. And look, I've been a part of some of these decisions before. You don't know who was available, who said, Caitlyn may have been asked and said no, possible. Angel clearly, it's a good look for her. I just don't. I'm just not that bent out of shape about it being Angel Reese on the cover. Like, they didn't do it at the expense of Caitlyn Clark. The feature that was written by Emma Baccelari, who I know, was about women's basketball as a whole. It wasn't about Angel Reese. Angel Reese is on the cover. Angel Reese is famous. She's a star. Who cares? Not that big a deal, guys. Yeah, Kathy could have just answered it a little bit better while saying the same thing. Thrifty Z says CC in the WNBA gave me summer ball, and I'm thankful for that. Mark says I was in this magazine business for 35 years. SI swimwear issue was a pain in my butt. The SI swimsuit thing is, that's a big deal, though. Every year. And very, very well could be that CC was asked. I mean, again, Angel's the new. Some of this is the Sphinx the Cat. Angel's the new. Part of this new movement. So that was kind of, I think, what they were probably going for. Caitlyn, the most influential athlete since Tiger. I mean, yeah, she's in that Tiger Jordan category for sure. For sure. I don't know if they'll put me on the cover as a former employee. I have to. Well, it maybe, former SI employee makes it huge on his own. and I do have, like I said, obviously I have a working relationship with them. I do run women's Fastbreak on SI. Link in the description below. I got the mug and everything. I could be wearing the polo. Look, I got the polo too. Hang on. It's actually pretty sweet. Got the polo and the book. And the site is crushing, by the way. So thank you to all of y'all for being a part of that. One second. All right. Former SI Employee of the Year. Nancy says, I agree about Angel on SI. She's photogenic and always say, yeah, I mean, Angel, Angel is a good basketball player who did a lot of good things in a rookie year, but she's bigger off of the court than she is on the court right now, I think. She has the chance to get there on the court, and she's very good on the court, but I think, her off-court movement and motion is bigger than her on-court impact right now. That doesn't mean she has no on-court impact. Obviously, the Sky were much better with her on the floor than her off, her rebounding and all that. She starts finishing. She starts hitting face-up jumpers. Her scoring's going to go up, and she'll be a legit star. But she has learned how to maximize that star power. I hope Caitlyn plays somewhere selfishly in the offseason, whether it's unrivaled, overseas, whatever. Thank you, Doug Phelps. I was in the middle of an article when I started this stream, and we'll finish it when we're done. I don't think the Fever need a win. They can't move out of 6, so it doesn't matter. If it weren't for the fans in attendance and the fact that they moved this game, I would sit them all. Sunburst Sound says, hope the starters get reduced minutes, give bench some needed reps. I don't care where. I just would like her to see. I just like to see Caitlyn play basketball. That's a long off season. Is that true? Cold coffee? Because I drink a lot of cold coffee. It gives you high. My blood pressure is good. Element Gold says, my man, but I think he's talking to somebody else, but that's okay. Still put the comments up. Well, Katie, I think she could do both, seeing her boyfriend at Butler, because, even if, let's say she were to do Unrivaled, that doesn't start until January, I don't think. Something like that. I don't know the EuroLeague season, but yeah, I mean, I think Katie, I'm sorry, that could be like a Michael Jordan level thing. Her going overseas. Like the dream team, in a sense. Mohegan Sun. If it were in Boston, it might be more Sun fans like that one game. But I think the percentage of Fever fans would probably it'd be close to at least 50-50, if not 60-40 in favor of Indy. Yeah, I mean, it's too long for her. See, here's the thing. Clark doesn't need, and I say this beyond my selfish reasons, right? Like, obviously, I think people would know my selfish reasons. But the offseason's so long. She doesn't need the money. We get that. But, like, if you think about it in NBA terms, right? Like, the NBA ends, and those guys get paid a lot. The NBA ends in June for the latest team and starts back up in October. So July, August, September, 3 months off. The WNBA season ends the latest in October. So November, December, January, February, March, April, 6 months. So you could play 3 months and still get a full NBA offseason. What up, DePope? B. Frank. How you doing? Shouts to everybody who has joined in here. Ab Scotland says AU in 5 weeks is 5 weeks in Nashville. Yeah, that's another one of the offseason things because not everybody's doing Unrivaled yet or has been announced. Like Sabrina hasn't been announced. So I don't know how it's going to work out exactly. Yeah, I think 20 to 25 minutes is fair, Brian, for that reason. All the people that are there to see Caitlyn. For sure. Okay. All right, guys. I said I do have to go get my kids from soccer. I do got some more work to finish up here, but I wanted to get this one in before the season officially ended. Be back with another live, obviously, sooner rather than later. Continue to check out the videos on the channel. Those will continue to be populated every single day. Essentially, Women's Fast Break on SI in the description below. Comment. I'll get back to many of you later. If you come in later, like, subscribe, all those good things. All those. I'm a coach and a dad and all those things. I'm teaching a basketball class tomorrow starting at an elementary school. So I'm also an instructor of basketball. Night Owl, peace out. Bryce, thank you. Cindy, thank you. Appreciate all of y'all. Until next time. Heat.